Hi everyone. We are Team EV, presented by Nick, Ray, Marco, Kyle, and Darren. And the project or topic that we decided to select for Project 2 and throughout the rest of the semester is currently why is America moving too fast when it comes to the hybrid and EV market? Taking a lot of recent news, in the headlines and whatnot, a lot of companies as well as the current government is really pushing that move to a net carbon in between 2030 and 2040. And with our collective interest on the EV market and what it currently looks like, we have a couple that work for DTE as well as a couple that own electric vehicles. If nothing currently changes, we're going to have some issues on trying to meet some of these net carbon goals. So each of us in this group have kind of selected a topic that we're going to focus on. And we'll go ahead and start it off with Darren and his issue.
Hello, my name is Darren. A little bit of background for me. Currently at Wayne State, I'm majoring in chemical engineering. I'm in my third year. My general interest for this topic is that I eventually want to be within the automotive industry or sustainable energy industry to work out these eventual problems that we're going to have transitioning over to electrical or some other sustainable energy. Topic I want to touch up on is the charging network, specifically the challenges that we currently have, and how the current infrastructure is not suited for the initial incoming flow of electric and hybrid vehicles. And then I believe I can throw it off to the other presenter, Ray, to talk about the other issues on infrastructure.
Hello, I'm Ray Jacosalim. I'm a major in computer science, and the reason why I'm interested in this topic is I have a general interest in electric vehicles, and also I kind of want electric vehicles and gas cars to be like a similar performance. So, and the topic that I will be covering is is to have a network that can withstand the future of electric vehicles. So, as of right now, electric vehicles require charging stations, and in like cities and other places, charging stations are very limited, meaning electric cars have to travel between these stations. And since there isn't a lot, they can't really travel anywhere. So in the future, probably have like more charging stations or more effective charging stations or more effective electric vehicles. And I guess I'll throw it over to Kyle Watts now.
My name's Kyle Watts. I am a civil engineering major, and I intend to go into transportation engineering after that, which is a facet of civil engineering. I'm very interested in electric and hybrid vehicle technology, and transportation engineering will have a lot to do with that, setting these charging stations, things about disposing batteries and how those affect our environment will all have to do with that at some point. So the topics I'll be going over in battery disposal here is the current method of disposing lithium-ion batteries, more efficient ways of disposing those batteries if there are any at all, the length of time it takes for a battery to decay, because that has a pretty big effect on how we dispose of those batteries, along with how those affect the environment as well. The cost of disposing those batteries, you got to think about how much time and energy that takes up to do all of that and how much space you need. And if there's any possible way to reduce that battery size, to reduce space that disposing of those batteries take up, and if there are any alternatives to using batteries, things like hydrogen, solar power, any possible ways that we just don't have to use lithium will probably be better than using batteries. So that's mine. I'm gonna pass it off to Marco.
So hi, my name is Marco. I'm an electrical engineering major, and I have an interest in electrical vehicles outside of just having interest. I own an electrical vehicle. So some of the topics that I'm going to cover, I've pretty much experienced firsthand. I've kind of seen the need for improvement in some of these areas. The first one being just the battery technology to extend range. So the electrical vehicle that I own is a BMW i3, and it's pretty much like a city electric car. It doesn't have too big of a range capacity, with it being maxed around 70, 75 miles. So it's pretty much just to go to the city and back if you're going to use the highway and use air conditioning and ride in comfort. It's pretty much as far as you can go without having a charging station there to connect you to another city. So that's kind of like the first topic that I'm going to cover, is to work on technology and see which technology can extend the range of batteries so that you won't need to charge as often as you would with the batteries that we kind of have now in some of the cars. So kind of along with that, I also want to look into battery technology that kind of makes it charge quicker, because obviously you don't want to be sitting in your car for 24 hours at a time waiting for it to get charged up to max capacity so that you can use it again. It's really important to be able to kind of have a similar system to pumping gas. You go in 10, 15 minutes if possible, get your gas, get out, get your battery filled up, get out, kind of along those lines. And then I'm going to also be working with Ray on kind of like the mass production of these batteries, because with an increase in electrical vehicle demand, obviously there's also going to be an increase in these batteries. So we move forward into like a more electric dominant future, that's obviously going to increase. So it's important to find a good balance between safety, affordability, and then the speed at which we can create these batteries, so that it's really able to be safe, be affordable to the general public, and also be able to be made quick enough to keep up with the demand that's going to hopefully be in the future. And the last topic that I really want to cover on is like the different composition of batteries. So with each year, is getting better and better, and a lot of the time they're changing like the internal components of those batteries, whether it be using lithium ion or other kinds of solid state batteries. It's always growing and changing, and you want to find the best battery possible and kind of the battery that we could use in the future to bring these carbon emissions down by 2030. So for the last member, I'm going to pass it over to Nick, and he's going to talk about his topic.
Yeah, so thanks, Marco. Just kind of before I move into what I'm going to cover, something that I think was important that Marco hit as well was kind of the affordability of electric vehicles and how they compare to gas cars. Obviously, right now, the price point of electric vehicles compared to the gas vehicle industry is a pretty sizable difference, with electric vehicles being more expensive. Obviously, Chevy has the Bolt, and Ford is starting to come out with a couple on, the first real pickup, the Ford F-150 Lightning just came out and is extremely expensive compared to some of the other gas powered options, with Tesla obviously being at the high end of that. And, one thing that if we don't get a chance to look into, but I also think, really important, is to see how what we can do throughout these issues that we're looking at and how we can drive that price down. Ultimately, the price of an electric vehicle is not necessarily affordable by the average American right now. And if, as companies and as a country, we're really trying to strive towards that, it's important that, that price point of that vehicle starts to drive down. So I don't know if there's anybody that wanted to add anything on that really quickly before I kind of jump into mine, but I think that was something important that needed to be hit before I kind of jump into my topic as well. Okay. All right. So kind of about the topic that I'm going to be hitting, and this is kind of mainly, what is the hybrid vehicle market really going to do to the gasoline industry? We've already kind of seen with the current government, the direction that they're wanting to go towards with shutting down some buildings of pipelines, of gas pipelines and oil pipelines, and what that's kind of doing to that. So a little bit about me before I get started. I transferred into Wayne State from Macomb Community College, and this is actually my first semester at Wayne State. I'm currently majoring in mechanical engineering. I've been around robotics and engineering since I was in 6th grade, so kind of have a niche for it, and I've been around it for a long time. I'm also currently a member of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, as well as the Engineering Student Senate at Wayne State. So pretty involved with the College of Engineering campus life at Wayne State as well. So, I got 3 main topics that I'm going to kind of cover here in my review. And the main thing is obviously the gas industry. What is really going to happen to the gasoline industry with this move to the hybrid and electric vehicle market? Is it going to get to the point where gas is going to be so expensive that people are going to be forced to buy electric vehicles? That's a main concern among the American population right now, and what that's going to kind of look like. How many jobs are going to be lost versus gained? Obviously with the hybrid and EV market ramping up, there's obviously going to be jobs added, but is that number going to outweigh how many jobs are being lost in the gasoline industry between pipeline infrastructure and those being created, as well as the sheer truck drivers that are just driving around gasoline right now to be able to get to gasoline to those gas stations, and what are they going to be repurposed for? So what that's going to kind of look like. The next one is, are gas stations going to be changed to charging stations? Is that going to be a common thing where, right now where we're driving on the interstate and we see signs for local gas stations, is there going to be signs that say, hey, charging station at this exit? And I think that for EV to be successful and being able to be compared to the gasoline market, that's going to have to become apparent, and that's going to be extremely important for what that's going to look like. And I'll as well be correlating with Darren and Ray on this, because this kind of correlates with their topic as well. And then also, I'm fortunate enough to be able to live into a small town where the gas stations are mainly owned by one main family. And I have a pretty good connection with that family. So I'll actually be correlating with those local gas station owners and seeing how they plan to correlate charging stations kind of into their current industry. I know that I've had a brief conversation with one of the owners before, and we've kind of talked about how he's thinking about adding 1 or 2 stations to each gas station. And what's the price point of that? How do you, I'm not super familiar with it, and Darren, you might be able to pop in, but when you go to a charging station, like, what is the price per kilowatt and how is that measured? So I think that's going to have to be a little bit more mainstreamed as well. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of roundabout of what I'm going to talk about. I think the gasoline industry is really going to take the biggest hit from moving to EV, and I think that's really important. So Darren, if you want to go ahead and move into our conclusion slide. So main thing, conclusion on, why we decided to get this, and, why is this important to really look into? Ultimately, the American government and many large corporations, GM, Ford, BAE Systems, all main manufacturers, have currently made a promise essentially to the the society that they're going to be moving to net carbon at a certain year. And frankly, our group believes that, we're just moving too fast. We really need to iron out some main things before that, before even a promise like that could be made. I think, our group has outlined a couple main issues that really need to be addressed before those types of promises are made, and not just kind of going with the flow. So Darren, you want to go ahead and take bullet 2?
Yeah. So one of the main questions we have, is there a way to smooth out this transitioning period that we're going to go into? For example, like Nick touched upon it, the gas stations, how they're going to potentially move into charging stations, or whether or not more charging stations need to come about, or the existing charging stations that we have, and they're typically ran through third party, unless you have the Tesla superchargers, where they are the sole manufacturers of the cars and the infrastructure. But for manufacturers like Ford or Audi or Volkswagen or whoever, they're typically going through a third party charging station. They don't necessarily have the control to go out and fix it if they're potentially damaged. If someone goes on a long road trip and they're expecting to go to this charging site, but it's broken, they're kind of out of luck and they don't have a means of charging, and they're kind of stuck there. So how do we try to make that streamlined so you don't have to call AAA and wait a couple hours for them to tow you, or find ways to, as Marco said, to reduce the charging time so you're not there for X amount of time compared to like 2 minutes at a gas station. There are a lot of challenges upcoming, but assuming so, our group can possibly find some solutions into making a better way so we can hit that net carbon, in which I believe Marco is going to talk about the final point of our carbon goal, if we are able to iron out these issues.
Thank you, Darren. So basically, without action, there's not going to be a way in our current state to reach that carbon goal by our set date. It's definitely going to take a lot of different actions by big companies, not just individuals such as ourselves, to kind of streamline the idea of electric vehicles to the public. Because without the public, if it's just a small group of people, it's not going to make a big enough impact to the point where we can reach the carbon goal. So it's going to be really important for these big companies like Ford and GM to really push the idea of electric vehicles to the public, make it as accessible as possible, make it as desirable as possible. And that includes things like having charging stations, having these big networks, so that a person won't think to themselves like, why would I get an electric car when a gas car is just so much more convenient? So it's really going to be depending on the big companies, but it's also going to be depending on the public to follow kind of in their footsteps and kind of like see what they're trying to do and kind of go along with it. Because without the two sides working together, it's going to be really, really difficult to reach the carbon goal. Definitely right now, if no action were to be taken, the promises that were made would definitely have to be broken promises. There would just be no way that we'd be able to reach that carbon goal by the time that we want to. So that's pretty much the kind of thing that we talked about. If anyone has any last minute points, they can feel free to jump in. But that's pretty much like what we're going to hit on for this topic, what we each want to do. And I think we have a really good topic with some really interesting backgrounds surrounding it. And I think we're going to do a pretty good job.
Yep, just kind of wanted to take the time to wrap up. Thanks, Marco, for that. And obviously, to whom this may concern, for whoever's viewing the video, if there's any questions on kind of what we're looking into, or if you even have some recommendations on what we could look into, that'd be great. So just wanted to take the time for you guys as well making the presentation, and thanks to whoever is viewing it. And we'll be back soon with the final result. Thanks.